Okay, so today the talk is actually on the Maṅgala Sutta. We have titled it as Well-being and Happiness in Life. Okay, lessons from the Maṅgala Sutta. So it's a fairly long discourse. In fact, there are altogether 38 blessings. So you can imagine it'll be quite a challenge to try to complete or to explain or to discuss the 38 blessings in one session. So I've decided to split it up into three parts. Yeah. So today we'll just look at the first part. We are basically just look at the 6 of the 38 blessings. Okay, let me see. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, now just a little background. The Maṅgala Sutta, I think many of you are familiar with this discourse. Actually, it is found in 2 parts of the Pali canon, right? So some of you may be familiar. There's another discourse called the Satipatthana Sutta, right? I think again, many of you who have practiced meditation, you've heard of Satipatthana Sutta. So that discourse is also found in 2 parts. For example, Satipatthana Sutta will be in the Majjhima Nikaya as well as the Dikha Nikaya. So likewise, the Maṅgala Sutta is also found in 2 sections of the Pali canon, both of which are actually in the 5th of the 5 Nikayas, right? So this is just for your background. It's in the Khuddakapata and in the Sutta Nipata. The only difference is in the Sutta Nipata, the discourse is called the Maha Maṅgala Sutta, or the Great Discourse on Blessing. But word for word, they are very much the same. Yeah, they are similar. So the 38 blessings that we will look through over the next 3 Sundays, they actually come in 10 verses. And what is important is that these 10 verses provides us an ethical and spiritual perspective on how we can live our Buddhist way of life, or in fact, live a wholesome way of life, not only because you're a Buddhist. So these blessings are actually for every person. And this is where we talk about from mundane well-being to supreme happiness. By the time we complete the 3 sessions, I think you will realize that the 38 blessings in 10 verses, they actually take us on a step-by-step journey of life, starting from very basic, very fundamental, but equally important aspects of our life as a human being, all right? Whereby by so practicing, we will derive happiness, mundane happiness, maybe you can say, mundane well-being, all right? And eventually lead us on towards the attainment of what is called supreme happiness. And in the Buddhist teachings, by the time we come to the third session of this Maṅgala Sutta, it is what is called nibbanic happiness, from the word nibbana. So that is why I think in Dhammapada, verse 204, the Buddha says, Nibbanang paramang sukhang. That means nibbanic happiness is the highest form of happiness. Okay? So, but like all Buddhist teachings, it is always a graduated path. While nibbanic happiness is important, there's no way we can experience nibbanic happiness if we don't even know how to experience mundane well-being and mundane happiness. Okay, so let's look at it a little bit on the background. So I thought it is important for us to try to understand before we actually look into the 38 blessings, to try to understand this idea of blessing itself. So in today's session, there will be basically 2 parts. One is on understanding the nature of blessings, and the second part will be to look into the 2 or the 3 verses of the 10 verses. Okay, so that's what we'll do today. So let's look at the types of blessings that we have. We call it the external blessings as well as internal blessings. Now, what do you mean by external blessings? Now, external blessings would include things like, some of you are familiar with protective chanting. You've heard of this word parita chanting, okay? Like on auspicious occasions. Sometimes when we set up a new home for housewarming, or even when a temple has just been set up, we invite monks to come and do some chanting, some blessings. So that's called protective chanting, okay? Now, the other one is, the other aspects of external blessing is when we are in the presence of highly compassionate and wise monastics or spiritual practitioners. I'm sure many of you have got Dhamma masters, have got teachers. So sometimes even to be in the presence itself, you can sense, that kind of blessings to be in the presence, So that is, in a way, is also external, because that blessings come from someone who is outside there. All right. So, when you're in the presence of some great masters, all right, when the late Chief Venerable Kesari Dhammananda was around, many of us like to be in his presence, just to be with him, to listen to his talk, and to listen to his presence, to see his presence itself is a form of blessing. Yeah. So spiritual cultivators, they kind of exude a sense of warmness, right, when you are in their presence. Now, the third external blessing actually comes from our parents. All right, their boundless love. They also provide blessings to the children. All right, I'm sure when you talk to your parents, even though you may be a 40-year-old person or a 50-year-old person, maybe to your parents, they still look upon you as someone who is very young, someone that they still need to take care of. So that's the kind of boundless love that they provide their children. And this itself is a form of blessing. So we call this external blessing. They are important, they are necessary. But I think what is important would be the internal blessings. Now, just for your information, I put a slide here. This is called the Book of Protection. Those of you who are interested in this paritas, right, you can look at this book. It's compiled by Venerable Piyadasi Thera. Collection of 24 discourses and protective verses. Now let's look at internal blessings. What are internal blessings? Now, these are blessings that come from our own efforts to practice the teachings. For example, by following the Eightfold Path, by following the 5 precepts. The Buddha, in fact, tells us not to depend on others, but to be a light to oneself. In his final discourse, before he passed away into Mahaparinibbana, in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the Buddha says, strive on with diligence, be a lamb unto yourself. So if we practice the Dhamma on our own, then we get blessings. All right. Some of you have also heard of the saying, he who practices the Dhamma will be protected by the Dhamma. So that itself is a form of blessings. Now, of the 2 kinds of blessings, the external one, which I've just mentioned earlier on, they can have very powerful, but they are at best temporary effects. Okay, they are at best temporary. But it's the internal blessings that can turn you into a blessed one, a source of light for yourself, for the family that you're with, for society, and for the world. Okay, so that is the internal blessings that I think if we understand the Maṅgala Sutta, we practice the Maṅgala Sutta, we will develop. So they are called internal blessings. Okay, before we look into the actual discourse itself, I'd like to share with you a very wonderful teaching from His Holiness the Dalai Lama when he talks about what is real blessing. I thought I'd just read this to you. Now, this is what His Holiness the Dalai Lama says. Blessing must come from within your own mind. It does not come from outside. Even if we talk of a Lama's blessings, a Guru's blessings, or the blessings of the 3 objects of refuge, when the positive qualities of your mind increase and negativities decrease, that is what blessing means. The Tibetan word for blessing, chinlap, can be broken into 2 parts. Chin, which means magnificent or great potential, and lap means to transform. So chinlap means transforming into magnificent potential. Therefore, blessing refers to the development of virtuous qualities that you did not previously have, and the improvement of those good qualities that you have already developed. So this reminds you of the 4 right efforts, which the Buddha talks about in the Noble Eightfold Path, right? So it also means decrease of defilements of the mind, our greed, our hatred, our delusion, that obstruct the generation of wholesome qualities. Therefore, also, actual blessing is received when the mind's virtuous attributes gain strength and its defective characteristic weaken or deteriorate. Now, this is a quote from the Dalai Lama, which I thought is fantastic because it actually provides us an entry into understanding what real blessing is all about, so that we experience real happiness. Okay? So let's look at the sutta itself. Now, what I plan to do is to take you through verse by verse, first by having the Pali verse, and then we look at the English translation. Okay? So the sutta begins. Thus have I heard. So like all of the Buddha's discourses, they start with thus have I heard. That means the I there is Ananda. Okay. On one occasion, the Blessed One, that's the Buddha, was staying at Ananda Pindika's monastery in Jeta's Grove in Savatthi. And when the night was far spent, a certain deity whose surpassing splendor illuminated the entire grove came to the presence of the Blessed One, and drawing near, respectfully saluted the Lord and stood to one side. So this is the background. So this is what, when the night was far spent, a certain deity. So here you find that there's the presence of devas or deities, right? Celestial beings. Now here you also understand a little bit about the Buddha's life itself. You may recall that the Buddha actually, his daily schedule actually divided into what, 5 parts? You have the morning part, which is like from 4 a.m. in the morning to around noon time. And then there's an afternoon part, which is from noon to 6 p.m. And then you have the night after 6. And that is divided into what is called the three watches of the night, or three watch. First watch, second watch, and third watch. So the first watch is like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And that's the time when lay people would come, drop by, or even monks, nuns, and then the Buddha would give some teachings. But it is in the middle watch of the night, which is from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m., that you find that the devas, the celestial beings, they would come. And when they come, the text says that the whole grove would be brightened up, because the devas are, they are like a mass of energies, so light. Okay, so then the whole grove would be brightened up, like when you read the Ratana Sutta, right, or the Metta Sutta, isn't it? You find that the whole grove was brightened up when the devas descend. So during this period, so from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., the Buddha would be teaching the devas. Well, at that time, most human beings would be fast asleep. Yeah? And finally, you've got the last watch, which is like 2 a.m. to 4 p.m. for 2 hours. And it is said that of the 2 hours, the Buddha would spend his time maybe meditating for 1 hour, and then he would sleep for about 1 hour. So he slept very little, unlike us. Yeah. Okay. So that's what is meant when the night was far spent. Okay, and the deity illuminated the entire grove, came to the presence of the Blessed One, and respectfully saluted the Lord and stood to one side. Now, then the Deva asked a question. Standing thus, he addressed the Blessed One in verse. So that's why there are 10 verses. If you read this discourse, 10 verses. And what was the question that this deity asked? Many deities and men yearning after good have pondered on blessings. Pray, tell me the supreme blessing. So, of course, if you read the commentaries, it is said that the commentaries to the discourse, they would explain to you that this idea or this question about what actually constitutes blessing have been discussed by many people for a long time. Some people say that if you wake up in the morning, if you hear a particular sound, that is a blessing. Or if you see a particular sight, that is a blessing. But nobody could actually agree what constitutes blessing. And of course, the commentaries explain that this discussion about what actually constitutes blessings even came to the knowledge of the devas, right, in the 6 realms. And so the devas themselves start talking about this. what actually constitutes blessing? All right, what is a blessing? So it is said that the Devas from the lower realm, the Chatu Maharaja Jika Devas, and then they discussed, they also could not agree, and they went on to the next realm, and then finally they reached Sakka, the chief of the 33 gods. And then Sakka said, look, even we gods don't actually know what constitutes blessings. But there's someone, maybe we should ask, who could tell us what actually constitutes blessings. So it is said that that's the reason why the deity came down during the middle watch of the night and decided to ask the Buddha. Okay, so because not only human beings have been asking what constitutes blessing, but even the Devas themselves wants to know what constitutes blessing. Okay, so then we move on to the groups of blessings. So before we actually look into the verse, so there are actually 38. So if you are able to follow through this series of talks for the next 2 sessions, we'll be covering what is called 5 groups of blessings. 5 groups of blessings that will give us happiness in this very life, as well as supreme happiness, supreme blessings. So today I'm going to cover only what is called essential blessings, blessings which are most fundamental, most essential. So there are 6 of them. We will see what these 6 blessings are in a short while. So that's the first group, essential blessings. And then the following sessions, the second session, the following Sunday, I will cover supporting blessings and personal blessings. So we'll look at the verse 7 to verse 21. Okay, and finally, in the third session, we'll cover higher blessings, where we look at blessings of verse 22 to verse 38. So obviously, even in 3 sessions, it will be very difficult to actually discuss, to understand in detail what the Buddha meant. I remember many years ago when the late Kesari Dhammananda was around, he actually gave a series of talks on the Maṅgala Sutta, 1 week, 1 verse, right? So there are like 38 weeks. So, and we're trying to cover 38 in 3 sessions. And if you go to the internet, you will also be able to listen to teachings on the Maṅgala Sutta. A good one will be by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi. Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi also split up his talk or his explanation on the blessings in, like, I don't know, 7 to 8 sessions. All right, and I remember some time back, Sayadaw U Jotika was also asked to give a talk on the Maṅgala Sutta. After speaking for 45 minutes, almost to 1 hour, he was only able to cover the first 4, because there's so much that he need to explain to all of us. Okay, so that's a lot for us to cover, but not to worry. I think what is important is I will leave you with the respective notes, and in my explanation, I will try to also give you other references where you could have access to more detailed explanation on each of these verses. Okay, so let's look at essential blessings. Now, essential blessings, as I said, we'll look at 3 verses. The first one is not to associate with fools, associate with the wise, respect those worthy of respect. So these are the 3 verses, all right, in this. And then the other one will be the essential blessing. The other one will be to live in a suitable location, having done meritorious deeds in the past, and be on the right track. Okay, so we will discuss these 6 blessings. There are 6 blessings here. Okay, let's start with the first verse. So the first verse says that many deities and men yearning after good have pondered on blessings. Pray, tell me the supreme blessing. Okay, so you see the Pali words up there. So you have the word Bahu, Deva, Manusacha. So that 2 words, Devas. So Devas refers to the deities, and Manusa refers to men. I'm sure you are familiar with the word Manusya, the Malay word for men. So in Pali or in Sanskrit, it has got the same word manusa. All right. So from our Malay word we have manusia. Okay, Maṅgala ni acintayum. So Maṅgala. So that means this is something yearning for blessings. So akan kanamana sotanang bruhi Maṅgala mutamam. So the word mutamang means Uttama, from the word Utama. This says here, Bandar Utama. So the word Uttama means the highest, from the Malay word. The Malay word you have Uttama, right? Chief, number one. So it comes from the Pali. Right? So what is the highest blessing? So this is the first verse. So many deities and men yearning after good have pondered on blessings. So pray, tell me the blessing, the supreme blessing. So this is the question which the deity asked the Buddha. So let's look at the first blessing, which is the second verse. Now this is what the Buddha explains. In Pali is asevana cha balanang, pandita nyancha sevana, puja cha pujaneyanang, etang mangala mutamang. So in English, the first verse says, do not associate with fools. So the word fools up there is bala. So bala is the Pali word for a foolish one. So when you see the word bala, it means a foolish one. Now here it says, do not associate with fools. Now what do you mean by associate with fools? You look at the Pali word itself, asevana. Now, you know, the word asevana. And then you see the second word is sevana. Pandita nyancha sevana. Now this is a very interesting word because, you know, our English word, our English language is also part of what is called the Indo-Gangetic languages, group of languages. So it has got a lot of similarities to Sanskrit or the Indian languages. Now, you know, in English, there's this word servant, S-E-R-V-A-N-T. So the word servant means to serve. So it's very similar to the Pali word sevana, asevana. So when you have the A in front, the prefix A means negative. Like you're familiar with the word kusala. Kusala means positive action, right? Kusala means wholesome deeds. So when you put the A in front, it becomes akusala. It means a negative action. All right? So ignorance is moha. So you put the A in front, becomes amoha, becomes wisdom. No more ignorance. So likewise, asevana means do not serve the foolish. So you can have a literal translation. In other words, when you associate with the foolish, don't serve the foolish, but you can serve the wise men. So the asevana means do not serve. So look at that word as serving. So when we associate with fools, so we do not serve them in that sense. So here, the commentaries also explain in greater details. A fool is one who is unable to tell right from wrong, and as a result, cause harm to others through his actions. He is not concerned with morality, nor the consequences of his actions. So if we associate, especially unmindfully, with such people, it will be difficult for us to make any material or spiritual progress, because there's always the tendency to behave in a similar manner. All right, so that's the reason why the Buddha says we should not associate with the foolish. Now, that's the first part. The second part is there will also be no motivation to do good deeds to improve oneself. So if you're always in the company of people who do not believe that it is necessary to practice morality, who doesn't believe that it is important to practice the precepts, you are in a company of people who do not believe that there are consequences of their actions, that if they do bad, nothing is going to happen to them. So if you associate long enough with them, especially unmindfully, what's going to happen? You're going to be just like them. You're going to be influenced by them. Okay? So there is always the tendency to behave in a similar manner. And when that happens, there is no longer any motivation to do any good deeds to improve yourself. Okay? So remember, the advice of the Buddha is very simple. If you cannot remember any of the Buddha's teachings, it is said, you only remember these 3 lines. Avoid evil, do good, purify the mind. So that summarizes the teachings of all Buddhas. All right? So just remember that. Avoid evil, do good, purify the mind. So then it's so important that the Buddha starts the teachings on the Maṅgala Sutta by telling us to be careful of who we mix with. Okay? Now, the other way of looking at this is, we also look at this fool in our own mind itself. In our own mind itself. Okay? When the Buddha says, do not associate with the foolish, you can also interpret as, do not associate with the foolish mind. Now, that foolish mind could be your very own mind. All right? Do not associate with, for example, greed. Do not associate with hatred. Do not associate with delusion. So if you have these 3 mental states, then you yourself is also a fool. So let us not associate with the fool, which is within our mind. Okay? So we can look at it in that sense. So it is not just your neighbor or your friend out there, but it's also you yourself, your own mental states in there. All right? Now, in a Samatha Sutta, so because we don't have time to go into details, so I thought I'll just leave you the name of the discourse. You can read it. There are 10 things there. The Buddha says about the fool, which is explained further in the Samatha Sutta. If one knows of a person, when I associate with this person, unwholesome qualities increase in me and wholesome qualities decline. One should not associate with such a person. So Samatha Sutta gives you an advice. If you have always been mixing with a particular person, and as a result, you find that your unwholesome qualities increase while your wholesome qualities decline, you should try to avoid such a person. But if you know of a person, when I associate with this person, unwholesome qualities decline and wholesome qualities increase, then you associate with such a person. So that is what is called a pandita, a wise person. Okay? So that's from the Samatha Sutta. You can read that. There are 8 other things. There are only 5. Now, this may also lead to the next question. Does it mean that we do not associate, we do not help people who are deemed as foolish? No, it does not mean that. However, we must also be prepared to help the foolish to improve themselves as a good friend, so that they too will follow the right path. What is important is that we remain mindful at all times and never allow ourselves to be adversely influenced by the foolish. With wisdom and compassion, we should not totally avoid the foolish, but help them to become better persons and follow the path of wholesome actions in body, speech, and mind. Okay? So here, while the Buddha did say in the Maṅgala Sutta, you avoid the foolish, we also should remember that the Buddha's teaching is always based on compassion, on kindness for others, that the other people also follow the correct path. So we ourselves must not have such foolish thoughts of greed, of hatred, and delusion. When we are able to reduce such thoughts in ourselves, when we are no longer foolish ourselves, then we can go and help other people. Okay, so we should look at it in that sense. Okay, so always remember that foolishness and that wise thoughts that we have. All right, we should cultivate wise thoughts, and we should avoid the foolish thoughts. Okay. So here the Buddha explains, the wise are those who have acquired the wisdom to tell right from wrong and thus avoid causing harm to others. They are aware that actions have results, not only in the present life, but future lives too. So they also understand the law of karma. Okay? They discourage wrongdoing and encourage good deeds. We should always associate with virtuous people, as proper friendships are of absolute importance in our life, no matter what stage of progress we have reached. Okay? So the first 2 blessings that the Buddha mentioned in the Maṅgala Sutta, to avoid the foolish ones. Here, as I said, always remember, avoiding the foolish one does not only mean avoiding another person out there who is foolish, but also avoid the foolishness in our own mind, our own greed, our own hatred, our own delusion. So what efforts do we take to try to eliminate all these thoughts of greed, of anger, and delusion in our minds, so that we become wise? Okay? So that's what is meant by the wise one. Now, in the Iti Vuttaka, again, I just leave this for you so that you could go back and then read further up. The Buddha gave a very beautiful simile. He says, if a person wraps rotten fish in a piece of kusa grass is supposed to be very fragrant. The kusa grass gives us a rotten odor. So even the kusa grass, which is very pleasant, you use it to wrap a rotten fish. In the end, when you smell that grass itself turns smelly. So it is for those who associate with fools. So when you associate with fools, because of the reputation that comes with that person who is deemed as a foolish one, you yourself will also get that same reputation. All right, like they say, birds of the same feather flock together. So likewise, the Iti Vuttaka says, if a person wraps tagara with the leaves of a tree, the leaves give off a sweet essence. So it is for those who associate with the wise. Okay, so your tagara could be like your pandan leaves, with the leaves of a tree, and then you tie it around a tree, and then the whole tree itself gives you a sweet scent. Okay, so it's very important that we associate with the wise. Now, the other part is the Buddha talks about the third is about friends, to respect relationships. Now, again, we do not have time to discuss this. Now, I just mentioned this because in the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha talks about how we should honor. We should have friends, our parents, our ascetics, teachers, workers, and then even the wife. In fact, in the other part of the discourse, the Buddha talks about supporting parents, supporting our wife and children itself is a blessing. When we reach that, we will come to that. Okay? So honor and respect. Okay? Now, so this is the third blessing, honor and respect. So for one who respect and honor those who are older and virtuous, the Buddha says in Dhammapada verse 109, 4 benefits will arise. You have longevity, you have beauty, you have happiness, and you have strength. Okay? So again, I will not go into details, but just touch a little bit more on what is meant by honor and respect. Okay? Now, obviously, as practitioners in the Dhamma, the highest respect that we reserve is actually for the Triple Gem, isn't it? For the Buddha, the teachings, and the Arya Sangha. So that's the highest that we have. But likewise, you can also look at these aspects of honor and respect in terms of our parents, our elders, and our teachers. Okay? And how do we respect them? We respect them in terms of materially, we support them materially, okay? And then also through our conduct. Okay, like for example, our teachers. What is the best way that we can show honor and respect to our teachers? What is the best way? Of course, one is if our teachers are still alive, we continue to take care of them. We continue to take care of them materially. Maybe make sure that they have got they have proper food, especially if they are in the old age, including our parents, they have a proper shelter. Okay, so that is one way we can show our respect and honor. But I think if they are our religious teachers, the best way we can show respect is to put into practice what they tell us, what they teach us. Okay, like when I look back, I'm very fortunate. It's a blessing that I got 2 very good teachers who actually brought me into the path of the Dhamma. My first teacher, Longpo Dhamma Banchanwood, for example, he taught me the importance of studying the teachings by looking at the scriptures. It's very important to look at the scriptures. It's not so much what someone says, but what that someone says, is it found in the scriptures? So which part of the scriptures? Which part of the canon, for example, or from the Pali canon that you find that that's been said. So that's something that I learned from my first teacher. And because of that, I always make it a point that whatever I say, I got to be very careful that what I say, if it is what the Buddha actually said, where do I know it that it come from? All right. So I make it a very important part of my own practice to be able to determine that if I said, oh, if you honor someone, you have long life, you have beauty, you have happiness, you have strength, did the Buddha actually say that? So if the Buddha said that, where can we find that? So that if that's what the Buddha says, we can go and then read further, go in depth. So here I've given you the phrase or the verse, Dhammapada verse 109. So what you should do is to go back, not just remember what I've just said, but to go back and then see what further details can you get from Dhammapada verse 109. Okay, so one way we honor our teachers is to put into practice what he tells us to do or what he shows us from his example. My second teacher is the late Kesari Dhammananda, whom I will always be indebted to because of his kindness, his compassion, and his wisdom. But one thing that I learned from him is that the gift of Dhamma is the highest gift. The gift of the Buddha's teaching is the highest gift. Because I saw it with my own eyes, even when the late chief was very sick. When he was very sick, literally, physically sick, he still wanted to have the opportunity to share the Dhamma with other people. So one way I honor him is to be able to continue to share the Dhamma for the benefit of other people, as long as other people think that, they have that interest to want to know that Dhamma. So I think all of us, we have different ways of how we want to practice what our teacher have told us. Okay, so that's one way we honor and respect our teacher. Okay. Now, there are also two other suttas which I would like you to make reference to after today's talk, where you can follow up on this honor and respect. But anyway, towards the third week, I think, we also have another blessing, which is called apachayana, which is in Pali, which means reverence or respect. So we'll look at that again. So in the meantime, you can look at two suttas. It's called the Garava Sutta, which is in the Samyutta Nikaya 6.2, and also in the Panya Sutta. All right, and where it talks about respect as a prerequisite for gaining knowledge and skill, for it creates the atmosphere for learning to occur. One suffers if one lives without respect or reverence. And it is said the first prerequisite of the holy life is living in apprenticeship to a teacher who has strong respect, as this attitude opens the heart to learn from others. Okay, so please make reference to these two very important suttas. Now let's go on to the final one, verse 3. Because of time, all right, I would like to give you some time for questions. Now, verse 3 is called Patirupa de Savasocha, Pubecha Kata Punyata, Artha Sama Panidija, Etang Maṅgala Uttamam. Now, three blessings here. Verse 3 has got three blessings: residing in a suitable place, having done merits in the past, and be on the right path. The first one, residing in a suitable place. Patirupa de Savasocha. Okay? So here it says to be residing in a suitable place. Now, in the commentaries, I think it explains that what is a suitable location. For example, it talks about the climate. You don't want to live in a place which is extremely cold. All right? Probably you don't want to stay in the Arctic. All right? So it will be too cold. Or you don't want to stay in the Sub-Sahara. It's too warm, too hot. Okay, so I think Malaysia is a suitable place in terms of climate. So one of the criteria of a suitable place is climate. The second one is called food, where a place where you can easily get food. Okay. Third one is a neighborhood, a safe neighborhood. All right, you don't want to be staying in a place where every night you will have your neighbors, in gunfights or fighting with knives, or throwing Molotov cocktails, So you want to have a safe neighborhood. And the fourth suitable place is a place where you have easy access to the Dhamma. All right? So you can check, right, whether you have this blessing of a suitable location. All right? I think if you stay in Malaysia, I think we are very fortunate. You know, as I like to say, you know, before COVID hit us, you know, I was actually literally traveling the four corners of the world, right? And it's always a blessing, you know, to be able to come back to Malaysia, because it is such a suitable place. All right, we may not be happy with the political situation, may not be happy with many other things in the country, but at the end of the day, it's not too bad a place. All right, it's not too bad. Yeah. So the climate, for example, food. I think Malaysia is not a place that you have problem with food. And neighborhood, you know, especially if you are staying in Malaysia, Malaysia is a fairly safe country, isn't it? It's a fairly safe country. And Dhamma, yes, we still have opportunities to listen to the Dhamma. For example, from my house during those days when I could travel to the temples, it took me 10 minutes to drive on a Sunday from my house, you know, leave my house to reach Bandar Uttama Buddhist Society, to reach BAPS, 10 minutes. I can even walk to BAPS, which is just at the back, you know, and for me to go to YBAM, it takes me another maybe less than 10 minutes. So it is a blessing to be able to be near suitable places where there is Dhamma, where you can connect with the Dhamma. Okay? So that's one. Now, the other one is having done merits in the past. Having done merits, the word merits is punya, isn't it? Okay, so I think I've explained that, so I'll skip that because of time. Okay, let's look at merits. So what is merits? Merits, the Pali word is punya. So punya is that which accumulates as a result of good deeds, acts or thoughts, which carries over throughout one's life or in future lives. So we have done good deeds in the past. I think we must have done good deeds in the past. If we have not done good deeds in the past, I don't think we would have this wonderful opportunity to be able to listen to a Dhamma talk. All right. I think the very fact that all of us here, all right, are able to spend like 1 hour, 1.5 hours, or 2 hours on a Sunday to listen to a Dhamma talk, we have sufficient merits in the past. Now, what is important is not what we have already accumulated in the past. What is important is what are we doing now? Are we generating merits now? If we don't generate merits now, then that merit will not carry through to our future lives. Just as our past merits have allowed us to be fairly comfortable in this life, so we have to continue to perform wholesome actions, wholesome deeds, wholesome thoughts, wholesome speech that will allow us to carry our good deeds to future life. Okay? So, in the Sanghiti Sutta, again, I don't have time to go into details, but this is found in the Dikha Nikaya, Sutta 33. So please read this discourse. It tells you about what actually gives us merits. How can we accumulate merits? How can we develop merits? First, we have to do dana. We have to do a lot of giving. All right. Again, you know, we have another talk just to talk about what is dana. We need to cultivate virtues. To put it simply, let's observe our 5 precepts. That's the most fundamental, most basic of virtues. And meditation. Now, meditation does not only mean that, oh, it's only once a year or twice a year that I can go to meditation, I can go to BAPS. When BAPS runs a meditation retreat, oh, that's when I meditate. No, meditation means bhavana, means mental cultivation. In fact, in Pali we said bhavana. The Tibetan word for meditation is gom, which means to familiarize our mind with wholesome thoughts, with whatever which is wholesome, to familiarize our mind. Or as in Pali, we say, to create those anusayas, to create those tendencies, those positive tendencies in our mind. So that even when we are not in BAPS, we are not in a meditation retreat, we are back at home, even when we are in the office, our mind is always filled with thoughts of loving kindness, with compassion, with wisdom. So if we always familiarize our mind with such positive thoughts, then we are actually in a state of mental cultivation. And that is what bhavana is all about, developing our mind. But formal meditation like retreats, those are necessary because they are important. Because it, number one, provides us the methodology of how we can subsequently, when we are not in retreats, when we are not in a formal meditation situation, we can continue to practice. This is what His Holiness the Dalai Lama called post-meditation. So he says, while meditation is important when we are sitting down, cross-legged, doing our breathing, or radiating loving kindness, what is even more important is what happens after that when you're not sitting down. Post-meditation, when you're in the company of other people, when you're at home with your family, with your wife, with your husband, with your children, do you continue to exhibit those positive thoughts of kindness and compassion and equanimity towards your friends, towards your enemies, and so on? So if we do all those things, that falls under the broad category of meditation, bhavana, or in Tibetan we call it gom, familiarizing your mind with whatever is positive, is wholesome. Okay, so those are the basis of merits. Now again, we do not have time to go into the 10 meritorious deeds. So this dana, sila, bhavana, you can actually break it down into what is called the 10 meritorious deeds. Okay, and there are 10 things here, all right? We can have 10 sessions to discuss this, all right? So under dana, you have got giving, sharing of merits, rejoicing in others' merits. Under sila, you have ethics, you have service, you have respect, two of which we covered briefly in the blessings. And then bhavana, which is meditation. So you see, bhavana is also listening to the Dhamma, teaching the Dhamma, correcting one's views, straightening one's views. Okay, so that is all falls under the aspects of mind training. Okay, what in the Lamrim teaching we call transforming the mind. All right, listening to the Dhamma. When you listen to the Dhamma, all right, how do you listen to the Dhamma? Do you listen like a pot that is upright, or you listen to the Dhamma like a pot which has got holes at the bottom? Whatever goes in just goes away. All right. So when you teach Dhamma, when you share Dhamma, all right, you also learn. Just as, for example, when I share the Dhamma, I do not know how many of you really benefit, but I personally benefit so much because before I can share the Dhamma, I have to understand, I have to read, I have to do some research, and I have to make sure that at least I try to practice what I say. So in that sense, teaching the Dhamma becomes so wonderful, so important. So that is why it is also a blessing in that sense. Okay. So finally, the right path. Okay. Most people do not even know if they are on a wrong path, much less being aware of the right path they should take. So the wrong path is that of immorality, greed, and ignorance. So if your path is one where you don't keep your precepts, so that's not the right path. So the right path is one of virtues, one of generosity, and one of wisdom. It is thus a great blessing to know the right path and to set oneself on this path of material and spiritual progress. Now, this Buddhist path that the Buddha, or this path that the Buddha talks about, is not just about spiritual progress. It's not just about spiritual happiness. It also talks about material happiness. In a beautiful discourse, which I did not mention here, is called the Dikajanu Sutta. The Buddha talks about 8 types of happiness. You can even say 8 types of blessings. And 4 of them are actually material happiness. And 4 are actually spiritual happiness. And it is clear that when you read that discourse, you know that spiritual happiness is not possible if you don't even have material happiness. So you need both. Okay, so Maṅgala Sutta tells us to develop or create the conditions for material happiness so that when we have blessings, then we can pursue spiritual happiness. Okay, so we have to make sure that, for example, we have some form of material happiness. Today, for example, if you don't have some basic material happiness, as I said, you will not even have the opportunity to spend 2 hours to listen to the Dhamma, because you'll be busy trying to maybe earn your next meal, to prepare for your next lunch. Mahatma Gandhi used to say, once someone asked him, how important it is to talk about spiritual matters. He said, spiritual teachings are very important, but before he would talk anything about spiritual, he wants to make sure that the material part of a person is taken care of. And in his, and what he said is, before I talk dharma, I make sure that that person has bread, roti. That means he's not hungry. If he's hungry, he don't even have food to eat. Why are you talking to him about nibbanic happiness? You should talk to him about happiness of having food, so that your stomach is full. Okay, so that is why one of the blessings of a suitable locality is, besides the climate, besides the neighborhood that you have, besides the ability to come in contact with Dhamma, is a place where you do not have problem with food. So food is a very important thing in the Buddha's teachings. Okay, so I'm going to end with this last reference, which is from the Saleyaka Sutta. So please refer to this discourse again. This is where the Buddha talks about the right path, when we are able to check whether what we do through our body, through our speech, through our mind, are they wholesome or not wholesome? Okay, if you kill, if you steal, you commit sexual misconduct, you speak falsehood, harsh speech, malicious speech, idle talk, you have greed, you have ill will, you have wrong views. In the Saleyaka Sutta, it explains that all these are considered as unwholesome actions. If you do the reverse, then they are considered as wholesome actions. Then you're on the right path. So what is the right path? Right path is when you do good deeds, say good words, and think good thoughts. All right. I think is it Master Singin or is it Sichi, right? This is their famous saying. Right? Do good deeds, say good words, think good thoughts. So that's on the right path. And you do that, you get blessings. Okay? So I was told to stop at 10:15 so that we have 45 minutes of Q&A. So I think that's the right time to stop. So what I've done is to actually cover, let's see. Okay, 3 blessings: not to associate with fools, associate with the wise, honor those worthy of honor. So these are the 3 blessings in verse 2. And I've also covered 3 more blessings, which is residing in a suitable locality, having done merits in the past, and be on the right path. So we have covered 6 blessings. So these are called essential blessings. So if you're able to join for the next 2 sessions, then we'll look at the other sets of blessings in the Maṅgala Sutta. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'm quite happy to respond.
Thank you very much, Brother Benny. We really have a few questions. I'll just read it out first.
Okay.
So what's the difference? The first question, what's the difference between blessings and merits? Can we say blessings are from internal cultivation, whereas merits are rewards from external performance of good deeds, for example, dana?
Well, merits are also of course, there's always the external and internal. Merits is also external in the sense that when you do dana, when you observe precepts, then that is a meritorious action. So it's a physical action, it's an external action. But at the same time, because of that actions, every action have got results, have got consequences. So the consequences, if you do wholesome actions, then the consequences are wholesome results. So those wholesome results are called merits. They're called punya. All right. So when you have punya, all right, and because in the past we have done a lot of wholesome actions, all right, so it manifests, it ripens as merits. Okay, so as a result in this life, we are able to have a comfortable life. So those are called merits. Okay, so in that sense, it is a blessing. Okay, now in the Maṅgala Sutta, the blessings, the 38 blessings, they are like causes. All right, they are like conditions that you need to create. All right, so that you will have blessings. So it is both external as well as internal. Okay.
All right. Thank you. And if you have a question from a participant in Zoom, brother, what do you mean by rejoice in others' merits when you talk of dana?
Okay. When you do dana, okay, when you do dana, in the first place, we must have a positive thoughts that by so doing, we will reduce our greed. All right, we will reduce our greed. So that's one of the reasons why we do dana. At the same time, we also rejoice because we have an opportunity where we are able to benefit others. So that's why we do dana. Okay, right? So we rejoice. Now, when you do dana, sometimes you also do because there's a need for the other people there because they need certain things. So when you're able to do dana, you're able to give those things to such people. Therefore, you rejoice that they're able to benefit from what you give. Right? It's like the 4 Brahma Viharas: loving kindness, compassion, mudita. So you feel a sense of happiness that you're doing something for the happiness of others. So that is what is meant by rejoicing in others, right?
Okay, next question. We share merits by transferring of merits to others. How do we share our blessings to devas, humans, departed relatives, animals, pets, etc.?
Sorry, I got cut off.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll repeat the question again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we share merits by transferring of merits to others. How do we share our blessings to devas, humans, departed relatives, animals, pets, etc.?
Okay. Well, how do we share merits? Okay. One is of course sharing merits by transferring merits to others. Now, in the actual sense of the word, we cannot transfer our merits to others. Okay, we cannot transfer. What we can do is to think of the benefits of others. All right, and if the other people know that we are thinking of them, then it is said that the merits is more auspicious. Okay. Now, can we transfer merits to devas, to humans, to departed relatives, to animals, to pets? Now, there's a particular discourse the Buddha gave. It's called the Janu Soni Sutta. Janu Soni Sutta. Okay. So in that discourse, the Buddha was asked this question by the Brahmin Janu Sonin, whether our merits can the beings in the different realms, can they benefit from the merits that we transfer? So if you study if you refer to the Janu Sonin Sutta, the Buddha says, if a being has died and then he passed away as a human, so you cannot transfer, you cannot share the merit because the human is already born as another human. If it is born as an animal, he also cannot benefit from your sharing. If he is born as a deva, he also will not benefit from your sharing. If he is born in the hell realms, he also will not benefit from your merits. But this is what the Buddha explained to Janu Sonin. If he is reborn in the Peta realm, the realm of what we call the hungry ghosts, then your merits can reach them. Okay? If they are reborn in the Peta realms. Then the Janu Sonin, the Brahmin, further asked the Buddha, what happens if the being that has passed, that say that your relative is not born into the Peta realm? Then the Buddha says, if he is not born into the Peta realm, then other beings born in the Peta realm who are always in need of these merits from others will benefit. And then Janu Sonin again asks, what happens if they are not born in the Peta, if my relative is not born in the Peta realm? this particular relative. And in the discourse itself, the Buddha explains, well, even if this particular relative is not born in this Peta realm, other relatives of yours who are born in the Peta, they also will benefit. And finally, the question asks, what about if really they are not born in the Peta realm? And the Buddha says, even if none of your relatives are born in the Peta realm, assuming, but that is not possible, even if that is assuming that is the case, then you have done a meritorious action because you have done a good deed. You have shared merits. So it doesn't really matter. Okay? So I think from here we can learn that it doesn't really matter whether other beings benefit or not. The very fact that, number one, we share merits with all beings. Okay? So we are already doing a meritorious action. Okay? So, and how do we share these merits? We can do it through our actions. Just now I show you the discourse that, well, it's right in front here, if you have that. It's called the Sanghiti Sutta, right? In Dikha Nikaya 33, the Buddha explains that you do it through dana, through keeping of precepts, and through meditation. So that's how you share through your good deeds. Okay?
Okay. Brother Ng here is actually requesting if Brother Benny could share your slides, the materials.
My slides are not copyright. There's no copyright, so you don't have to pay royalty for my slides. They're all free. They're all Dhamma slides. My slides are all with Babs, so I think Babs will be able to distribute that to you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, there's one question here. Could you please briefly explain what is the difference between dana and chaga?
Dana and chaga, C-A-G-A. Well, chaga is the other word which we use to refer to giving. But I think there's a difference. When you give, when it is dana, of course it is a meritorious action. But sometimes that meritorious action can be diluted. You know what I mean? You can give out of some tinge of greed. You can give, for example, maybe Brother Danny says, oh, Babs is going to have a new extension, or we're going to raise some money we're going to raise some funds to build a new section. So we need dana, we need people to give donations. So here you come, okay, I'll give 5,000. But then you say, when I give 5,000, I need to know how much other people give. If other people give 5,005, then I'll give 5,006. So that I give more than what the other person. So there's always the little self that's saying, if I give, I want to make sure that my name appears right at the top of the list of donors. Yeah. So maybe you ask, okay, how much must I give before my name will be inscribed in the on the temple walls, So, well, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that when you do something, you always want to get something back in return. So you want to give. You learn the Dhamma. Maybe you even listen to the Chula Kama Vibhanga Sutta, and you realize that, to be wealthy, to be rich the next life, I have to give. I have to be generous. So if this life I'm a millionaire, next life I make sure that I'm a billionaire. So as a result, I will give. So the motivation behind your giving is a little bit not so complete, yeah? Not so complete in that sense. Okay, so that's still giving. I'm not saying that that's not good. Chaga, on the other hand, when you give without expecting anything in return, when you give, when you heard that, the preaching hall in Babs is getting too small because the more people come, you need to expand it. So you say, oh, that's wonderful, so they're going to expand. So you never have any thought that if I give even 500 ringgit or 100 ringgit, you want anything in return. So you just want to give because you realize that giving itself is good. There's no selfish motivation behind it. Okay, so that's giving. Likewise, you can also give out of anger, out of hatred, out of jealousy, you know, out of fear, for example. Many people give out of fear. You know, some people say, if I don't give to, you know, some people say that there's a new person in this government department, so I must give him something. So that's become corruption, really, isn't it? So that's not the type of giving we are talking about, because you give, you're expecting something in return. So that's not the type of dana we're talking about. So we like to transform our dana into chaga, C-A-G-A. Okay. The other way of looking at chaga is, you have heard of this word called, well, this morning you recited the 9 virtues of the Buddha, right? Buddha, you say, then you recited the 6 qualities of the Dhamma, right? Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho, and so on, right? And then you recited also the 9 virtues of the Sangha. All right, so the Buddha, we call it Buddha Nusati, isn't it? Reflection on the qualities of the Buddha. The second one is reflection on the qualities of the Dhamma. So it's called Dhamma Nusati. And the third one is called Sangha Nusati. That means you reflect on the qualities of the Sangha. So the three qualities that you recited this morning, they are actually also objects of meditation. Objects of meditation. Okay, so we could actually meditate on the qualities of the Buddha, we could qualities of the Dhamma, and we could meditate on the qualities of the Sangha. So they are called Nusati, from the word Buddha Nusati, Sati, mindfulness, right? Buddha Nusati, that means be mindful of the qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Have you heard of Chaga Nusati? Chaga Nusati? So Chaga Nusati is when you reflect mindfully on the good deeds that you have done. How pure are your good deeds? Or how diluted are your good deeds? Okay, so one of the practices that I learned from Ajahn Jayasaro is that before you retire to bed, before you sleep, it is good to, well, one of my practices, I have a Dhamma book, all right, next to my bed before I go to bed. So, you know, to get the opportunity, I can always, you know, maybe read a particular paragraph or a particular chapter, right? And the other thing which Ajahn Jayasaro mentioned, which I try to practice, which I think is really very good, is that before you go to bed, you reflect on, you know, during the waking life, what did you do? All right, if you woke up at 6 in the morning, okay, maybe you went jogging, then after that you went to work, you know, then you came back, you know, and then at 10 p.m. or 10:30 p.m. your head is on the bed and you're about to sleep. Now, before you close your eyes, reflect, what did you do? Did I do any good? Did I do any chaga? Did I do any good when I was awake? Then you reflect, oh yeah, today, you know, I was able to help so and so. Oh yeah, today, you know, I did, you know, I gave a Dhamma talk today, you know. So tonight, before I go to bed, I will try to reflect. What did I say in my Dhamma talks? Did I say something wrong? Right? Or should I have emphasized something more? Right? So that's chaga. So something good that you have done. Remember, the Buddha says, the gift of truth is the highest gift. Dhamma dana jinnati. So that's the highest truth. So the gift of truth is the highest gift. So that's chaga. If I give a Dhamma talk, hoping, oh, you know, at the end of this Dhamma talk, you know, Babs is going to, how much is Babs going to pay me this time if I give a Dhamma talk? You know, or if Babs is not going to pay me anything, I'm not going to give any more Dhamma talks, for example. So you know, if you have such thoughts, then your gift of truth becomes diluted. Right? So there's no longer chaga in its real sense of the word. Okay, so chaga is when you do an act of giving with a pure mind. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I think Sister Eckes, you have something to share?
Yes, thank you, Brother Danny. Yes, I have a question about dana, giving. So talking about giving, there's also there's mutual, like the giver and the receiver. So receiver, there are many types of receiver. Like the first one is those who is in need. The second one
in
is
need, yes.
the second one is those who wanted, who wants. The third type is those who doesn't want. So these few type of people, how can we tell who to give? And then what happens if we give to the person who doesn't in need?
Okay. So I think in all Buddhist practices, and the element of wisdom is always very important, right? So we need to understand. For example, if we want to give something, it is up to us to decide which one we think, based on our research, based on our understanding, which one deserves more. Maybe because we have limited resources to give, isn't it? Right? All of us have limited resources to give. We don't have unlimited resources. So we have got, I don't know, we want to give 1,000 ringgit as dana. So who do we want to give on what purpose? Number one, it goes back to your motivation. What is it that you want to cultivate? Right? So that's one. And secondly, you look at the recipients, as your sister mentioned. Where's the need? For example, if someone comes to you and said, look, we're going to build an extension of this temple. We have a temple, but we want to have an extension of the temple. And then another person come and tell you that, look, this home, this old folks home, for example, the roof is already leaking, and as a result, the inmates, what do you call it? Even the beds are all wet because water is seeping through. So then you have to decide, all right? If you say, "Oh, I'm a Buddhist, I must give to the temple first," well, it's your choice. But if you look at it, where's the immediate need? Maybe the immediate need is to give that money so that quickly the old folks home can repair the roof, and so that the inmates or the residents there, the old folks there who are staying there, they do not get wet. So which is more important, right? So you have to make that choice. Right? You have to make that choice. So then you have to find out where your money is going to, isn't it? You have to find out. So we have to have some wisdom. Okay, many years ago, I was talking to this. Maybe some of you know David Loy, Professor David Loy. He's a Zen master, Zen teacher. He was once asked a question. He says people in Thailand, they believe that building temples is the highest meritorious deed. So would he give more money to build temples? What David Lloyd told me made me think for many years. He said, Thailand is never short of temples. Thailand has got so many temples. Thailand is short of hospitals. So if I have only limited resources, I only have 1,000 ringgit or 10,000 baht, I will give that 10,000 baht to build another hospital. All right? So that is the way he looks at it. So I think we need to really try to understand where the need is. What is most needful? Right? So we have to use a lot of wisdom. Right? So the Buddha says compassion and wisdom, they're like two wings of a bird. You cannot have just compassion but no wisdom. And likewise, you cannot say, oh, wisdom, or, in the, because I read the suttas, in the, which sutta is it? Maṅgala Sutta, right? Velama Sutta. It says that, one of the highest merits is actually to build temples. Yeah, of course it is good, right? But at the same time, you have limited resources and you find that someone is dying, he needs to buy the vaccine, for example, right? Would you give that money for him to buy the vaccine now? Or would you say, no, I'm a Buddhist, I need to give this money to the temple? Well, you can give the money to the temple because the temple is not going to collapse. Temple will still be there, all right? So, but later on, then you can. So it's your decision based on your compassion and based on your wisdom. So both must be there together, wisdom and compassion.
Okay. So if I give you a scenario is about a person who's all this while has a luxurious lifestyle, but because of the pandemic, they have forced to change, but they can't let go of the luxury. So they want to earn more money to sustain what they have now. So they need more money to ask people for help for this. So is this considered once the second category?
Okay. Well, since you mentioned it's hypothetical, so I think there's nothing wrong if you want to earn more money, right? In fact, the Buddha has also given some discourses about how you earn money, and there's even a discourse where he talks about the blessings of having a lot of money. But what is very important is how we earn money. Do we earn money through hard work? He may be a very rich person before the pandemic. So now, because of the pandemic, his business is gone. His business is badly affected, but he wants to continue. So he wants to earn a lot of money. Well, he can continue to work very hard. Now, if that also means that he asks people for donation, then you have to use your wisdom. Why do you need to give him money so that he becomes from a millionaire to a billionaire? Do you need to give him that money to help him to do that? You can encourage him to work hard, make sure that his work is wholesome. You can share with him some Dhamma, but you don't have to give him money in this sense. Right? But if he's so broke that because of the pandemic that he even have to sell his house, he has got children, he got to feed his children, and then the children have got no place to stay, don't even have a roof, then you can help him. But how much can you help? You can help in so many ways, not necessarily with money. You can help by maybe finding opportunities for him to get another job, or there's so many other ways you can help. That is also giving, isn't it? So giving need not always be seen as giving in terms of material deeds. Giving can also be seen in a form of by giving him advice on how he can find another job or to change his lifestyle. That's giving, isn't it? You give him Dhamma, maybe then you help him to understand that, hey, look, things have changed. You cannot continue to live the way that you used to live. Okay, so we do our best to tell people that. Right? Many years ago, in the not COVID, right? This was when we had economic recessions, and we have many people who were retrenched from their jobs. Previously, in their home they have 2 cars. So after they got retrenched, they only have 1 car. So people are very miserable. So how do we help them? You definitely don't help them to buy another car. You can help them to change their attitude. All right, this is where Dhamma comes in. Tell them that, look, you can still survive with 1 car. It may be a little bit more difficult, but how do you go about it? All right, so there are different ways. So we give them the gift of Dhamma so that they see things in a different perspective. I have a different paradigm shift. So not necessarily that it's always giving has to be money. Okay.
All right. I think due to time constraint, I think that's all the questions that we can take for today.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you very much, Brother Benny, for the wonderful sharing on the Maṅgala Sutta.
Thank you.